Dawson. If you're not met Father Dawson, go find him. Look him up. All right? Philosophy professor, influenced all of us. Teamed up with Jack Smith, Wayne DeJohn, Dick Geiger for Quad Cities for Peace across the whole Quad Cities, and made a huge difference in our lives. And then finally, last but not least, Joe McCaffrey, who's still here from the philosophy department and currently on sabbatical. These were the men that Smith listened to on campus and was influenced by. Joe was also influenced by these people in terms of thinking about what it means to be a leader. Notice Stephen Covey, the big fraud, isn't up here. Jesus. All right? Who's up here? Do we know who these people are? Who's the guy in the upper left? Ben Kingsley, right? Well, it looks like Ben. I think it's his grandfather. Who is that? Gandhi, of course. Joe read extensively in Gandhi and thought much of Gandhi. Martin Luther King in the middle. And Cesar Chavez down here on the right. We know who this is. Who's this woman? Anybody out here that, other than, that's less than 65 years old, know who this is? Do we know who that is? On a Catholic campus, we don't know who this is? Shame on you. Shame on us. It's Dorothy Day. Any help? Now do we know? No. Uh-oh. You got Dress for Success for the seminar, but you don't have Catholic worker movement? You don't have Dorothy Day serving the poor? No, because that wouldn't get you a job. Better go look her up. Better go look her up. Look up Catholic worker movement. Who's Dorothy Day? Who's Peter Maurin? Spent their life serving the poor. No job. Did she ever work? I don't think so. Lazy person. Who's this? Who's this? No, don't know. Saul Alinsky. Any bells? Any bells? Chicago? Are we getting closer? Everybody? I won't ask it, okay? We know where Chicago is? Yeah? Anybody from Chicago here? No? One? There's more people from Alleman than Chicago? How weird is that? Saul Alinsky wrote a powerful book called Reveille for Radicals, I think. Correct me if I go amok on this, guys, okay? And Alinsky pioneered the idea of hardcore community organizing. Door to door, day to day, visit people's houses, knock on their doors, talk to them about changing their lives. He didn't talk about empowering people. That comes out of the social work department, for God's sakes. Okay? He talked about people being powerful. South side of Chicago. Do you know anybody else that came out of the south side of Chicago lately that's kind of famous? The Prez? The Big O? Came out of the Alinsky movement. Came out of the Alinsky movement. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. These are the guys that influenced Smith early on. Any of them interested in a career? Any of them interested in making a lot of money? Any of them interested in dressing for success? Yeah, just Gandhi. Student power and responsibility. It's hard to find these pictures. It's a picture of Joe at a protest over firing a faculty member. I think that's when he was a sophomore. Looks like his sophomore face. We were very interested. This was hot stuff. Coming out of the late 50s and early 60s into the middle 60s, students all over the country were locked up in an argument with their administrators about whether or not the university should serve in loco parentis. Do we know what this means? Yes. No. No Latin anymore. We don't teach Latin anymore. In place of your parents. The theory was the school acts in place of your parents, in loco parentis. And so the school would make rules that your parents would want made. And you would live by the rules at the school that your parents would be comfortable with. This should sound familiar because that's how we're run now. We fought for 10 years to get that stopped. Obviously, we failed. We had a brief period of flourishing where it wasn't true, and then students wouldn't fight anymore. They wouldn't organize themselves anymore. They wouldn't stand up to the authority of other people making decisions for them anymore. And so, now you get this. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying you're oppressed. I'm just saying you're still children. You're not making the decisions. And that we fought against. And that we fought against. Joe did it, and John did it. Faculty or university governance, this was an equilateral triangle. Each party we taught, thought, organized, and fought for had an equal say in what happened at the university. Now it's some other kind of weird isosceles triangle. This line's really, really long. This line's short. This line's a point. That wasn't what we were thinking. Now maybe we were wrong. I'm not saying we were right or wrong on this. I'm just telling you what it was. And what people went and worked on and organized for and spent their time was, how should we be governed? Who should make decisions? What's your responsibility as a student to make a decision? And how are you supposed to do that? And we made significant gains for a number of years. When some of the best of these people left, it got rolled back. Vietnam War. Very serious issue. The government's drafting people. They're sending people away to South Vietnam. You know, you see in the papers that I'm not diminishing, I'm not saying it's not a sacrifice today for the people who are in Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm not even going to talk about equivalency. But I am going to say this. Okay? When you're in college and you got a draft number, and when you leave here, some of you are going to go fight, whether you like it or not. Or if your grades aren't too good, and your draft board in Shittsville, Iowa, calls you up and says, you flunked class, you're going to Da Nang, it got your attention. What's a tough week now in casualties? 10? 15? How'd you like to look at 300 a week every week in the newspaper? 400 a week. Who would endure that now? But they were enduring it then until students and others in town tried to do something about it, and Joe was keen on it. At the same time, he was one of the leaders in establishing a draft counseling center on campus to help students understand what their rights were under the draft law. In fact, the draft counseling that Joe helped set up served John Kiley later. Here are some of the key events outside of the war itself that Joe helped organize around were other people who were engaged in acts of civil disobedience. Catonsville 9, led by the Berrigan brothers. Milwaukee 14, led by Michael Cullen. Was Groppe in that group or not? I can't remember. No. Cullen out of Milwaukee, and then the Harrisburg 7, again the Berrigans and others. So these became events. No, I'm not going to say shame on you for this, okay? No way you should definitely know this. Dorothy Day, I'm a little upset. All right? But then we would organize around these more national events on campus as support. And at various times we brought some of these people onto campus. the Berrigan brothers were on campus to talk about both Catonsville and Harrisburg, and Michael Cullen out of Milwaukee. So we'd organize around that, get people interested in it, and have people come to speaking events. And Smith and I went to, where did we go? Beloit, Wisconsin. March 1968. Beloit, Wisconsin. Really nice there in March. Cold, wet, snowy, and we're knocking on doors in Beloit, Wisconsin. Walking the streets, knocking on doors, handing out, vote for Gene McCarthy. Get clean for Gene. That was the sign. That was the slogan. So you had to cut your hair, trim your beard, cut your beard off, call home, get your jacket and suit coat, because you hadn't seen it in 4 years. Borrow a tie from somebody. Start knocking on doors in the neighborhoods in Beloit, asking them, in the Democratic primary, don't vote for Johnson, vote for McCarthy. So, trying to participate in the political process at the most fundamental level. Johnson wins in Wisconsin, but McCarthy's showing is so strong, Johnson goes on TV, announces he's not running for president in 1968. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It wouldn't have happened without this kind of stuff. We're going to leap to, I'm trying to stay on time. We're going to leap to May 1970. Nixon, also known as the Big Dick among his friends, invades Cambodia, expands the Vietnam War, invades Cambodia, starts to bomb, sends troops in, does all of this. We're trying to get the war wound down. This goofy guy is winding it up. So the students all over the country went bonkers. Went bonkers. Thousands of students all over the country went bonkers. And the authorities, seeing this, also went bonkers. And at Kent State, Ohio, the Ohio National Guard opened fire and killed 7 students for protesting the war. In their partial defense, the students were taunting them, throwing rocks and insults, and they shot them. Was it 3? Did I misunderstand? Tom, did I miss that?
Tom thought there was 4. I thought there were 5.
Okay. I thought it was 7 were shot. I thought 3 died. I could be mistaken. I'm an old guy. My memory isn't what it used to be. Here on campus, this is Locust Street. We instantly organized, got strike silk screen. Did you do this?
No, I did not.
Okay, you did a different one. All right, thank you. Got strike silk screens, put them on T-shirts, and started selling them and passing them out, and people hit the streets. And so we had this long line of people doing that. And the thing was, shut down the university. Shut it all down. And so we struck. And over a period of time, like a week, everything changed. It was all liquid. It was all liquid. Even people that had been in favor of the war suddenly have doubts. How could we do this? And so, on campus, the Academic Senate, we didn't have a full faculty democracy at that point. Academic Senate had 12 people, all right, voted to suspend class on campus if you wanted to go out into the communities and organize against the war. 12-0, 1 abstention. I actually know who abstained. So, if you wanted to, you could take whatever grade you had at that point, pack up your bags, leave campus, and go out and try to do what you could to stop the war. The university said, yeah, let's do this. Okay?